Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to call to order the Douglas County Community Mental Health Board of Trustees for this Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025, as we have a quick contract we need to approve due to timing. So we are going to start with Board of Trustees for Community Mental Health. Please note that a copy of the Open Meetings Act is located on the north wall of the Legislative Chamber here. And since it's tradition to do the pledge at the beginning, I'll go ahead and bump up the pledge to right now.
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With that, we'll do a roll call, please.
Chair Garcia,
Here.
Vice Chair Kavanaugh, Trustee Borgeson,
Present.
Trustee Fahey,
Present.
Trustee Morgan,
Here.
Trustee Rogers.
Thank you. And also, I did get a few calls and messages that a few people are stuck in traffic that appears to be a little heavier this morning for some reason, including Patrick and a couple commissioners. So with that, we'll jump into our consent agenda. We have one item here. It's our approval of the agreement for the Accreditation Commission for Healthcare Incorporated in Douglas County, Nebraska, a political subdivision of the state of Nebraska, on behalf of Douglas County Community Mental Health Center. And Sherry, did you want to say anything or just right on in? All right. With that, Board of Trustees, comments or questions on this item? Motion to approve and adjourned by Borgeson, second by Rogers. Please vote.
I'm going to do a verbal. Chair Garcia,
Yes.
Trustee Borgeson,
Yes.
Trustee Fahey,
Yes.
Trustee Morgan,
Yes.
Trustee Rogers.
Very good. That adjourns Community Mental Health Board of Trustees. We will jump into Board of Equalization. Roll call, please. Oh, we'll give Clerk Esch a second here.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, good morning, Commissioners. Commissioner Borgeson. Commissioner Kavanaugh is absent. Commissioner Fahey. Commissioner Friend is absent. Commissioner Morgan is right behind me, present. Commissioner Rogers. And Mr. Chair.
Here. First item of business are items A and B. A being the approval of the minutes of the Board of Equalization meeting held Tuesday, November 18th, 2025. B is a call for a meeting and set Tuesday, December 9th, 2025 as date for hearing on certified assessment corrections reflecting the addition of amended property to the tax rolls or increased value on property. Do I have a motion and a second on both?
Second.
Motion by Rogers, second by Morgan. Please vote.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Before we get into resolutions, please note that the protest item, item H, is no longer being considered as that's been resolved by the complainants and the office that they were working with. So we are just going to be doing the resolutions, which are items C through G, which we can take a motion for, plus adjournment. That we'll still have discussion, yeah.
Can I would like to remove item 25176 under C, and with that removal, I would approve the rest of the items on the Board of Equalization agenda.
Okay. So under C, 25176 will be removed. Everything else we will motion to approve as Rogers' his motion. Any second?
Second.
Second by Morgan, and that does not include adjournment because we'll have to talk about 2516. Okay, very good. I saw Assessor Goodwillie. Did you have a comment on any of these, Mr. Assessor?
Mike Goodwillie, Douglas County Assessor, Register of Deeds. No, Commissioner, actually what I was going to do is kind of recap, but Commissioner Rogers has it right on the money. We have gotten a late application for the first item, Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge. Process-wise, we have to deal with that application with a certain amount of notice, so you'll be seeing that recommendation on a future agenda.
Got it. Okay. Very good. Any other comments or questions on any of the resolutions, C through G? If not, we'll vote on those minus 2516.
Commissioner Kavanaugh has joined us. Motion passes 6-0.
Very good. That leaves item C, specifically 2516, Worship Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Nebraska, which we just heard briefly about. Commissioner Rogers, anything else?
I guess the question is, just recapping that, as you recall, 2 weeks ago, I asked the board if they could remove these. I had not seen them before, so they were, at least as far as I can say, first-time offenders. I reached out to all of them personally. Mr. Goodwillie confirmed that only one application came back from Prince Hall. So I'm assuming by removing it for the denial when it comes back, we'll go through the process of asking for grace. And so, like he said, it'll come back, and I'd request to give them grace for the one-time
Okay.
late fee.
So maybe just table it to the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
And I just want to give the explanation now so we know.
Very good. Next meeting is on December 9th, so,
I'll move to adjourn.
okay. Plus the tabling, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll table 2516 to the next meeting, December 9th, plus adjournment is the motion by Rogers. Any seconds?
Second.
Second by Morgan. Please vote.
One moment, please. Okay, thank you. Motion passes 7-0. Commissioner Friend has joined us.
Thank you. Now we will go into Douglas County Board of Commissioners meeting. Roll call.
Commissioner Borgeson? Commissioner Kavanaugh? Commissioner Fahey? Commissioner Friend? Commissioner Morgan? Commissioner Rogers? Mr. Chair.
Here. First item of business are items 1A and B. A being the approval of the minutes of the Board of Commissioners meeting held Tuesday, November 18th, 2025. And also B is the approval of claims submitted for payment process through Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025. Do I have a motion and a second for both? Second. Motion by Rogers, second by Morgan. Please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Next, we have our consent agenda, which are items A through M under consents. Do I have a motion and a second for discussion? Second. Motion by Rogers, second by Morgan. Are there any comments or questions on the consent agenda?
Mr. Chair, I do have
Yes.
a couple.
Okay, Mr. Clerk.
All right, on Dan Esch, Douglas County Clerk, on item B, and Teresa can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe on the signature pages, they say November instead of December, so we just want to change those to say December.
Yes, that's correct.
And then on 2K, I think everything's correct on item 2K. Just wanted to note on the agenda, it says youth adult court. It should just say adult court. And I think that's it. So.
Okay.
If I apologize, Dan, if I may, on the, on B,
The notary also mentions, it calls us Lancaster, and I believe Ellen corrected that to Douglas as well.
Okay.
Yeah, because they want ink signatures and it notarized, so I think we're going to do that as well.
Okay, we'll make note of those 3 technical corrections. Other comments or questions on consent agenda from board or public? Otherwise, we'll vote.
One moment, please. Okay. All right, thank you. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Okay, next, we will go into our recognitions and proclamations. Under 5A, we have 1 recognition of a county employee retirements for Val, and I may pronounce this incorrectly, but SED, T-S-E-D, who worked for the Douglas County Corrections Department for 27 years. And I don't believe he's here today, but we want to honor his dedication to the Douglas County citizens and his work at the Douglas County Corrections for such an extended period of time of 27 years. So do we have a motion and second for that one? Motion by Morgan, second by Rogers. We'll go ahead and vote on that one first.
Motion passes 7-0.
Very good. And next we have another recognition of somebody we're quite fond of and will be missing very soon. It's a recognizing Brian W. Cruz for 10 years as Douglas County Election Commissioner. And so we will get to that resolution here. Let me find it in my binder. If you want to make your way up, we'll give you a moment to also say some words, Commissioner Cruz.
While you're looking, there isn't a chance to get laid over for a year or so.
If I'll keep them, then yeah.
Do you want me to go ahead?
Yes, you can go ahead and kick us off if you want.
Okay. Well, good morning and thank you. First of all, it's a little bittersweet, of course. It's been a good 10 years, 3 presidential elections. I'm going back to the profession I came from. So sometimes opportunities present themselves that you do not even know are going to be there. And so there was some talks before we came to an agreement. But ultimately, I decided that it was an opportunity that I should take. So, first, I'd just like to thank my parents. They came this morning. So Bill and Kathleen Cruz are here with me. Also, as a note, it's my mom's 75th birthday today. So happy birthday, Mom. 75 years young. So, some of the accomplishments that the staff and I have had since I have gotten there is some of these I'm sure some of us have forgotten about because they're just so ingrained now is we started the permanent early voting list. We now have half of the voters of Douglas County on that list, and half of the people vote by mail now. We've increased drop boxes. 77% of all early voting ballots are now returned by a drop box rather than the U.S. mail, and we encourage that because it's the most direct way from the voters to us, and it's very safe and secure. We got a new office. We were over on Davenport. Some of you remember that. So that was all thanks to many of you and some that have gone before us. Commissioner Boyle and Commissioner Kraft come to mind on that. 2020 and that primary was really kind of a watershed moment, I think, for myself, my staff, and for the safety, security, accuracy, and fairness of elections. If you remember, which you will, Chairman Garcia, in that primary between Mike Boyle and Mr. Garcia, it came down to 3 votes. And we did our recount. We had our new machines. We did our recount, and it also came down to three votes. So now we had a real life example and tangible to show that our people, our processes, our procedures were in place and that they were safe and secure. And you know, to the credit, the candidates had questions, but they did not question us. They believed in our process as well, so did the board. And so that really, I think, was a watershed moment for us to really be able to show how safe and secure elections really are and continue to be, and we've used that example over and over and over the years. We had the power outage when the squirrel knocked our power out the Friday before the 2020 election as well. As a result of that, in our new building, we are now wired up. Public Properties helped us do that, and again, the board, some COVID money, so we now have the ability to have a generator and power up the office if we need to in the event of a power outage. Of course, we had the pandemic in 2020 that we all remember. The pandemic was about St. Patrick's Day, and we had an election that May, about 6 or 8 weeks later. And we transitioned from in-person poll worker training to online training. We did all of our videos in-house. We did not have in-person voting in our office, but we never, ever locked our doors to the public one single day during that time because we had an election and democracy had to go on. We had about 87% voted early in that primary election, but 13% did go to the polling place, and our poll workers stepped up, and we managed to do it. One of the other big things was we maintain neighborhood polling places. You know, we usually have about 215 of those. During the pandemic, we were right about 200. I had seen what had happened in other big cities where they tried to use large convention centers and stuff like that. And I just said, if we're going to have an election with polling places, we're going to have neighborhood polling places, because I did not want to disenfranchise the voters. We waded our way through voter ID, and that's been extremely successful. And of course, we have the looming expansion now that we just got this fall, which will help, you know, for the voters and the staff. So I'd just like to say thank you to the board. You've been so incredibly supportive over the years, and we couldn't have done this without you. So thank you. The media's been good to our office. They've been really good at helping us get information out when we've needed it to. The staff's been amazing. My deputy is on his way, but he's trapped in the interstate. Oh, he's here, Chris. Chris was there before me, and he intends to fill out his 2-year term, the last 2 years, for consistency. You know, Chris and I have tried so hard to be nonpartisan and do things in public to really show we are nonpartisan. My elections manager, Justine, who's been there almost 25 years, so she's definitely the rock of that office and a great example for young women of a strong female leader. So thank you. Valerie, public relations, many of you dealt with her. And then Brandon Olson, who volunteered during the pandemic to be a poll worker, then applied to be the poll worker coordinator and is now a manager at our office. And then all of the staff back at the office there today. So that's been an incredible staff. Obviously, the poll workers, 3,000 strong in a presidential year. And it's pretty cool when you think about our democracy, the 3,000 here and the hundreds of thousands. They are checking in early voting ballots and checking in people and helping them to vote. When you know surely those people that are volunteering their time are voting differently and have different ideas than those they're helping to vote, but yet there's never an issue with them helping people vote fairly and freely. So, you know, they really are the backbone of our democracy. And lastly, it's been the honor of a lifetime to serve the voters of Douglas County. I never dreamt in my wildest imagination that I'd ever have this possibility. So I'd just like to end by saying thank you. Thank you to everybody, the voters of Douglas County. I believe wholeheartedly that 99.9% of the people in this county believe we have fair and free and accurate elections. And I think if there's one thing I would like to be remembered for and one word to sum up the last 10 years with my staff and I'd say it's transparency. So with that, I've probably talked too long,
You're fine.
but thank you. It's been an incredible ride, and it is a little bittersweet. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cruz. It's our honor to recognize your 10 years of service. Let me get the official language of the resolution here into the record, and then I'll take both a motion and commentary from my colleagues here. So the resolution says, whereas Brian W. Cruz has been the Douglas County Election Commissioner since January 2016, serving with integrity and leading the office to administer safe, secure, accurate, and accessible elections for 10 years. And whereas Mr. Cruz enhanced relationships between the public and Douglas County Election Commission through countless presentations and media interviews, providing education on the election process and enhancing voter confidence. And whereas Mr. Cruz increased voter options throughout his tenure, creating the early voting request list and installing additional secure ballot drop box locations. And whereas Mr. Cruz led efforts to enable the Douglas County Election Commission to better serve voters by securing a larger and more accessible office space, adding staff positions, increasing accountability by installing security cameras, and enhancing resilience by adding infrastructure to use temporary generators during electrical outages. And whereas Mr. Cruz managed elections through the challenges presented by the COVID-19 pandemic and implemented online training that has been utilized by thousands of poll workers. And whereas Mr. Cruz provided election leadership and expertise throughout Nebraska by researching and testifying on election legislation and active involvement in the Nebraska Association of County Officials. And whereas Mr. Cruz is resigning from his position on January 9th, 2026 to return to the private sector. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of Douglas County, Nebraska, that this board proudly recognizes and honors Brian W. Cruz for 10 years of exemplary service to the voters of Douglas County, thanks him for his dedication and stewardship, and wishes him great success in his future endeavors. Dated this day, the 2nd day of December, 2025. Do I have a motion, a second? Motion by Morgan, second by Borgeson. We thank you again. I'll take some comments from my colleagues here, starting with Commissioner Kavanaugh.
Brian. You're going to be missed, pal.
Thanks.
I just want to say that in all my years of being involved in elections in Omaha, Nebraska, Douglas County, I have never had the pleasure of working with a better election commissioner. That's Democrats, Republicans, and everything across the board than you, sir. I've often said that the elections and that you oversee are the air supply of our democracy. And you've not only preserved that air supply, you've improved it, as you pointed out. Early voting and all the other improvements that you've initiated during, I got to say, a bit of a challenging time. I point to a couple of things that are really, I think, indicative of the excellence of your public service. And this is just a couple out of a lot that I could name. First of all, that pandemic experience, which affected us all, left you no time to really react. I mean, it was like March 17th and May 9th or whatever it was. And yet you did. And pivoting on a dime, really, we were able to have a really good turnout, all things considered, because you allowed people to vote from where they were rather than come out and endanger their health. That's a big thing, because our elections have been challenged by various circumstances for 250 years. You know, civil wars and lack of communication and corruption. And yet we've come to this point where a fair and honest election can be had in the midst of a terrible pandemic, and life goes on. The other thing I would point to is, as you indicated, Commissioner Garcia's election with Commissioner Boyle. And I don't know what percentage of accuracy that would be, but it would be 99 point, a bunch of nines out to the wall to get to that percent of accuracy. And no question that it was accurate. I mean, it was well done. I've been through many, many recounts. I've never seen one done that well and that accurately. And it just goes to show that we have, as you've indicated, fair and accurate and transparent elections here, and we might set the national standard for that. I don't think anybody can fairly say that what you put out on the day after election is the vote, and that's basically what preserves our democracy and the integrity of our electoral system. You're really going to be missed. You're going to be hard to replace, and I look forward to you prospering in a well-deserved transition to private life. You've done your part. You're a great example of a public servant. I'm reminded of the citizen soldiers or what you come off the bench, you do your job, and then you go back into private life having achieved everything that anybody in public service could ever think of achieving. I'm a Democrat, you're a Republican. That has never made an ounce of difference in our relations, and that's the beauty of your civic contribution, I think. You've preserved this democracy, you're passing it on in good shape. You should be very, very proud, and your family should be very, very proud of you and what you've done. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your kind words.
Thank you. Let me go to Commissioner Friend.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Brian, the sliders and curveballs you and your team have faced, particularly recently from 2020 all the way up until now. I'm glad you didn't resign in 2021. I mean, I think a lot of people would have. Your strategic plans on the fly were pretty solid. I can also say this is probably part of the reason you're not an accountant, I don't think, but your attention to budget detail is pretty sound. When I get a call from Brian and it's budget season, I pretty much know he's going to have his, numbers lined up and all of his facts together. So I think we all appreciate that. Your focus is good. We appreciate that greatly. I was at Mass one day and Brian was the lector, and he when we got done, I caught him after Mass and I go, hey, and this was like I don't know, it was right after the pandemic, or I don't know, is the pandemic over? I don't even know. It was at a time when things were crazy. And I go, hey, are you enjoying yourself? And he smiled and said, it's all good, we're fine. I would have went into a 20-minute diatribe about how my life is terrible and my job is horrible, and he just smiled. I don't know, that inner peace, share some of that. I don't know how we get it. Brian, thanks for all the work. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let me go to Commissioner Morgan.
Well, Brian, I'd almost like it if your parents came up and stood beside you for this, because the only reason that you're able to accept and have these praises thrown out at you is because of the two parents that you have and what they taught you without even knowing they were probably teaching you to be such a really good person. I mean, you're special, and I really mean that most sincerely. And I thank you for the great team that you built at the election office and the people that worked with you. And you will be missed, and you left a tremendous mark. And I think whatever you choose to do, and I know you've chosen what you're going to be doing, you'll do the same kind of thing. Exceptional, excellent work. And you're so respectful and just appreciative. It really makes a difference. And I just want to thank you very much that we were lucky enough to have you for 10 years. Thank you. And I want to thank your parents. You can be, most proud of a great son.
Thank you. We'll go to Commissioner Rogers.
Brian, I think a lot's been said that can be. I just say I'd measure pound for pound if anybody's district gets more calls about the election commissioner than mine. And it is because of some historic reasons. But I guess few people can know that the situation when you came in with the previous election commissioner, there had been an inadvertent changing of polling places in the middle of the election, which had, my phone up in arms. We eventually got it solved, but the work that you probably did to rebuild that trust there with them, with some people that I trust there in the community, went a long way. And so, I can't say any more than anybody else has said. I greatly appreciated the fact that if I did get a call from somebody, I could trust the fact that you and Chris would deal with them fairly, and that you were always out in front of the crisis, and you knew where the hot buttons were, and gave us cover in that respect. So I guess that speaks to the fact of having a touch of sympathy in the mortuary business, which you can bring to the election profession. So with that, I wish you well and thank you for all the service over the 10 years.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let me go to Commissioner Fahey.
Brian, thank you again. It's really been a pleasure to work with you, though I regret it was only for this year. I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciated that, the great job you and your team have done. I think it would be impressive in any era of our history, but we live in a time of diminishing, we might even say crumbling, trust in public institutions. So it is a great testament indeed to all of your terrific work. And I am doubly appreciative for you to make and to name your legacy as one of transparency, because that is, in fact, the only and always will be cure-all for lack of trust in public institutions. And I think all of us public servants from coast to coast would do well to make it our lodestar. So thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Commissioner Borgerson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Brian, for your service. And, Carol Prokoff and I were talking earlier this morning that being here for a while, we go back a ways with not only the staff that has shown their consistency, their dedication, their integrity. You've brought in that transparency that they also latched onto, and it's very comfortable walking into the election commissioner's office now, which, a lot of people think it can be intimidating, but you've made it very welcoming site. You and Chris have done an excellent job with the transparency issue, and voter education as well. People understand it much better than they did. And as candidates, I think you've welcomed all candidates with open arms into the office. And again, just thank you for your service. You will be missed, but I think again, with the folks that you have in place that have been there for a long time, and hope will continue to be there for a long time, the office will, again, they know how to run true, transparent elections with integrity. And I have and I've said it gazillion times, no issues, no worries about our elections because of the team that we have in place. And your leadership showed and proved that we have nothing to worry about. So thank you. Good luck
Thank you.
going back to the private sector. Don't be a Don't be a stranger once you leave.
Yes, yes.
But thank you again for your service.
Thank you.
And thank you all for your service.
Commissioner Cruz, just briefly on my end, want to show appreciation that elevates the both your professionalism, but also the bipartisan team between you and Chris. I think is amazing to see that at work. For those that may not know, the larger counties have their election commissioner appointed by the governor. So he or she typically appoints somebody of the same party. But the statutes say that the deputy director has to be of a different party or the other party, so to speak. And so that makes it a bipartisan team. But just because it's in the statute doesn't mean they're going to work well together and they're going to have this synergy and, professional chemistry. But these two actually have worked really well together. They've been an amazing bipartisan team. And your leadership that welcomes that effort to come together and focus on what is best for citizens in the county was exemplified every day that you served in this role. So we just thank you for that professionalism, for always being responsive, emails, responses, phone calls. You were always quick to respond, and we really appreciate that. So thank you for your years of dedication here. And I know as well, on top of that, Mr. Clerk wanted to say a few words.
Oh, okay.
Dan Ash, Douglas County Clerk. Well, I really can't say a whole lot better than the board members have already said. I guess why you will be missed and difficult shoes to fill. I suppose the next person, though, maybe if there's any anxiety over that of having to replace you, like you still have a really solid team in place that you helped create. And so I think, although you'll be missed, I expect the Election Commission to continue on the great things that have happened the last 10 years. And I just want to thank you for everything.
Thank you, Dan.
And Commissioner Borgeson?
I wanted to
Okay.
thank you for, and that was for the poll worker recognition that you do every year. That I can tell by attending those.
Yeah.
That the looks on their faces as they're sitting there being recognized for, again, what work that they do in a very trying time a lot, here lately. But that, and I hope that continues because that means a lot to those folks who give their time and energy to us during the election. So thanks for starting that.
And yes, and we are working on trying to get some kind of a permanent plaque or something in the new space or in the lobby so they can continue to be recognized.
All right. Any other comments or questions on this resolution? If not, we'll vote. Did you have something? All right.
May I speak?
Yep.
Thank you. Larry Storr, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha 68132. I just want to point out today that we are going to have an executive order, if it isn't already issued, to take our elections back, which basically means, and this is a good time to start that discussion because...
Larry, we're talking about the resolution to honor Mr. Cruz's 10 years of service. We're not talking about executive orders.
Let me rephrase my beginning then.
We're not talking about executive orders.
It's not all peaches and cream. We've heard peaches and cream. I want another reason. When I was in the line to vote last time, this gentleman, spying on us from inside, came out to the line, looked for me, and took my hat from me. Now, this hat is not a political statement. If you see it, it says Make America Safe or Keep America Safe. It does not say MAGA. You jumped the gun on that, sir. Then, as I went in the door, guess what? Just right inside the door, the League of Women Voters. They are a national organization. They are not nonpartisan. Okay? You can disagree with that, but they are not nonpartisan, but just inside the door. But I couldn't go in there with my hat. That's not all peaches and cream. Now, I do want to defend him in one way, that he takes orders from the Secretary of State. The Secretary of State refuses to answer questions about elections
Okay.
many times by many people. He takes orders from the Secretary of State, so it's not all his fault. But it is his fault for helping to take elections away from what it was intended to be, which is in the precinct with hand counting, no machines, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, it's a great time to open that discussion as a county board where it should be before we hire a new one, commissioner, to set the stage back to where it's supposed to be. You might as well get on board because the president's going to do it. So let's have that discussion as a county board, as it's intended with the citizens, not just a whitewash of what somebody says that has power that I don't have. I'm supposed to have the power in this room, not you or not him. This is where the citizen's supposed to have the power. So let's put it back there. Precincts, no machines, hand counting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you.
All right. For context, state statute does not allow political symbols or clothing in election voting areas, hence the removal of the hat. All right, with that, we are very happy to vote on this resolution and honor you, Commissioner Cruz. And so we'll take a vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you very much. And if you would like to take a picture with us, Commissioner Cruz, and yes, your parents are welcome to join us if they'd like to.
Carol, you want
Oh, mom and dad, we gotta get mom and dad.
What an amazing way to celebrate, guys. Yeah, very proud. Thank you. We're gonna miss out on getting all the scoops though. Yeah, you too. Sorry. We're not done yet.
Here we go. Good.
Thank you. Thanks, you guys, for your support for him. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. When you think about that little guy, you think that, boy, thank you so much. Thank you for coming. Yes.
Brian, take care, buddy. See you.
Yeah.
Good kid.
On consent? Okay. Okay, we'll bring us back here to the agenda.
You can stay up here with me.
All right, we're going to bring it back.
Dan, these handouts are right there.
All right, before we get to our presentation, Mr. Clerk had a quick comment on the consent agenda.
No, thanks, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to correct, so we don't need a revote or anything, but I misspoke earlier on item 2K. I believe I said the word youth needed to be stricken. It just needed to be changed to young adult court. I think I just said it had to say adult court, but it should have, the agenda should have said young adult court. But a resolution in the backup documentation was all correct, so that we don't need to revote. I just wanted to state my correction. So thank you.
Got it.
One question on 3, and I think Patrick was getting, or Diane, the information on that.
Question on what?
It had to do with what was the dollar amount of that item. It's not in the backup documents. We're just trying to get that in the record.
Okay.
This is an annual salary adjustment for basically non-union employees.
Oh, we're not there yet, Commissioner Kavanaugh. It's still forthcoming on the agenda.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we're there now, aren't we?
No. We got a couple presentations first. We're
Oh,
on.
I'm sorry. On the agenda, it's the next thing.
No. We just completed section 5 for recognitions. Now we are in section 6, presentations. And we have one listed here, a presentation regarding the importance of the county's general assistance department and the homeless system in Douglas County. So we'll get to that. Jason, I know, is
He's right
here. Very good. And this presentation has been tabled twice. So Jason, thank you for your patience with the process here. We'll get you set up.
We'll just push the arrows.
Perfect. Great. Thank you so much.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Commissioners. First off, I appreciate your patience with me. I think the first time the presentation was supposed to happen, I had a scheduling conflict, or actually mistake on my end, so I apologize for that. And the second time, the power went out. So this is probably the most anticipated presentation of the year for you guys. Wanted to have a moment to talk with you guys about kind of the work that we're doing as a COC and work we're trying to address with our homeless population in our community. The agenda really quickly, I wanted to give you kind of a view of what this looked like from our homeless system and some data outside of HUD data. I wanted you guys to see more environmental data that we're starting to collect and work through. Also, the federal funding. We're in the current right now in a open competition for the federal funding. I think it's good for you guys to know what that funding looks like moving forward and where those changes are. I'd like to address at least our encampment pilot program that we're doing with the Omaha Mayor so that you guys understand that from a deep level. And then a couple of our, what we think are next level strategies, which is FUSE, which is frequent users, systems engagement, and then our partnership with Douglas County General Assistance, which we think is just super vital to the future of what we're doing and how we address homelessness. So without any further, I don't think I said for the record, Jason Feldhaus, Executive Director of Threshold COC. It's an opportunity to have a quick conversation with you guys. Let's see if I can get to the next one here. One thing I think it's really important for you guys to understand about our homeless numbers are they are going up. Nationally, they're going up. They're going up everywhere across our country. But one thing I think that's really important for us to understand is that we've started looking at it from a census data perspective as well as an overall population. And the success of our city, as we continue to grow as a city, our population of homelessness and individuals coming into our system accessing services goes up. But we're right now not on both sides. This isn't anything rosy, but it's also not a crisis. As we grow as a city, our population of homelessness grows at about 0.079%. So you're seeing that a population growth of just short of 1% our city year over year. Our homeless system grows at about 0.079% year over year. The big change is on the far right where you're seeing our homeless unsheltered. We're seeing a drastic change in our homeless system. We're seeing a drastic change in the needs of individuals who are experiencing homelessness and the way our current system is designed to address those issues. And it has drastically changed since 2019. We've seen a really big increase, about 200% increase from 2019 of unsheltered and street homelessness. And so that is one of our major concerns moving forward. Overall services, though, we do have in place to address. We have 1,250 nightly shelter beds, and then we have another about 300 shelter beds that are for DV. So we are able to address most of the time our nightly shelter, but we do have probably anywhere about 200 to 300 on the street at any particular time. This one I think is really important, something we've started tracking. We'll take another poll here in January for our last annual year. But what we've seen is our chronic homelessness just continue to rise, and our senior and fixed income are not keeping up with the cost to stay housed. And so our system is absorbing more seniors and fixed income individuals than we ever have, and that is a consistent trend that continues to go up. On the far right, you're seeing our housing numbers go down. Individuals we can actually get into housing and keep housed is going down. So at the same time that our seniors and our fixed income are losing their homes that maybe they've saved for their entire life, we're actually seeing it's harder to get them back into housing overall. And one reason why our unsheltered population has increased so much is because our shelter system is not designed for couples in most cases. It's designed for single individuals, single women, single men. We don't have enough, let me be clear, we don't have enough single women shelter beds. But that's how we still address it, is in separate bunk houses. With that being said, couples have to choose either being street homeless or separating at the door. And that is a complication we're currently seeing. And in these numbers, it continues to show that is one of the reasons why people are being pushed further to the streets. This is some environmental data that I think is really important. And this, we believe, speaks to why we're having troubles getting people housed. The vacancy rate in the Omaha area is about 5.9%. And in one data point we saw was that we're about the 7th most competitive rental market in the country. And we're the 52nd or so largest metro area in the country. In addition to that, over the last 5 years, we've seen rent go up 22.6%. And I think that's a pretty conservative estimate. We've seen it up to anywhere around 27%. So anywhere between 21 and 27% increase in rental costs. We've watched studio apartments go from about $550 a month around the beginning of the pandemic to about $950 to $1,000 a month. We all know consumer inflation is added on top of that. That continues to rise and continue to go up. And then our rent burdened in our community is at about 46.6%, which means an individual is considered rent burdened when they spend over 30% of their take-home pay on housing costs. That in some cases has stayed fairly level, but it is definitely a concern for us because those are the individuals that are most likely to be on the verge of entering homelessness. And in particular, if they're not homeowners and they are fixed income or elderly, they are headed our way. The other thing that we've also seen is that about 5% of evictions lead to direct entry into the homeless system. But what we have seen is individuals that are coming out of any kind of public housing, doesn't matter if it's Iowa or Nebraska, are about 3 times more likely to end up in the homeless system. What we've seen is the eviction nature is that there are a lot of resources those individuals have most of the time, and they can couple together and stay housed unless they are already in drastic economic outcome and they are eligible for public housing, they are more likely to come see us. This leads us into kind of our federal funding. Last year, we received $7.1 million as a community from the federal government, from HUD. Most of those dollars go into already supported and fixated programs. In other words, about 30% of that is new. The rest of that goes to continue to manage programs that are already in our community. The rest of that goes to continue to manage programs that are already in our community. 30% of that goes to continue to manage programs that are already in our community. The rest of that goes to continue to manage programs that are already in our community. The rest of that goes to continue to manage programs that are already in our community. The fiscal year 2025, we were supposed to have a 2-year cycle from the federal government. We weren't supposed to have a NOFO. They call it a NOFO, notice of opportunity, notice of funding opportunity. That's how HUD titles it. We weren't supposed to have a NOFO until fiscal year 26. It was supposed to be a 2-year allocation by Congress. This administration has changed that. We are currently actively in a competition right now. The good thing is the standard, it's called ARD, but it's a calculation they make at HUD to figure out your base level of funding that's available to a community. The good thing is right now we're eligible based on population and our homeless numbers for about 9.6 million. The issue is only 2 million of that is secured. On average, about 70% of your NOFA dollars were secured. So that 7.1, 70% of that was automatically coming to the community, and then we competed for nationally for the other 30%. With this new NOFO, we are only securing $2 million to come into our community, and the 7.6 will go into a national competition. We're making adjustments as we can to meet the new standards of the federal government. We're adding new board members on our committee, or on our board. We need 2 law enforcement. We have an elected official position, and others will continue to make those adjustments to try to raise our numbers as fast as possible. We have, I know you guys have probably heard about it, the encampment ordinance. Right now, Omaha City Legal says that we don't meet the threshold for that ordinance by executive order, but Council Bluffs has also ruled that we do. Right now that's in court order. It's actually held up in litigation right now at a federal level. We'll get better understanding as it goes on. I'll get more into that ordinance in a bit, but I wanted you to at least understand that from a federal funding perspective. That right now we're following the lead of other COCs like Des Moines, Lincoln COC, and we're using standing ordinances as a way to address encampments and hold on to that federal funding. One of the biggest changes that we definitely have coming is we have invested in permanent supportive housing and rapid rehousing over the last 10 years. The federal government is drastically changing that. Only 30% can go into permanent supportive or rapid rehousing. So we are concerned that we will lose affordable housing units directly aligned with our homeless services. We're encouraging our partners as we speak to understand the transition process so that they can move those into other housing programs that will be acceptable to the federal government for long-term funding. Our primary goal and our number one concern is holding on to as many units as we can under the framework that's provided by the federal government. So that's the guidance that we've given to our providers to make sure that their applications reflect how we can hold on to those units moving forward. We've also recently had the Omaha mayor and the COC partner on an encampment pilot program. This was in regards to an ordinance that the city council was bringing forward. Our concern with the encampment ordinance was that it was a 24-hour notice. Basically, intervention by law enforcement provided notice to the individual in the encampment. They had 24 hours to vacate or they would be forcibly removed. That removal would be, obviously, they wanted to move to the shelters, take them to the shelters, and then if not, it would have to be moved to corrections. Our concern with that was 2 things. One was the higher level of criminalization of the homeless, as well as our shelter system is running at fairly capacity now. So we felt that the option to taking people to shelter probably wasn't going to yield the result that we were looking for. Individuals would return to the street and then we would have them in corrections. As of November 1st, we launched the pilot program. We've closed 11 encampments across the city. The city gives a 10-day notice. We do not, the COC does not close, or our providers do not close the encampments. The city goes and actually delivers a notice of closure, dependent on their own assessment, whether that's 7 or 10 days. Right now, we've used the 10-day notice. After that, we have increased our commitment to visiting those encampments. We're visiting them every day over those 10-day period of time. encouraging people to find other housing options, making sure we secure their valuables, make sure any of their documentation is secure and safe, and we have worked out storage facility at Sienna Francis for that. In addition, our shelter providers have looked at what adjustments they can make at close to capacity or capacity, but we are looking at where we can find room in the shelters. One thing we've noticed, we just finished our first 30-day run. The notices have actually changed the environment on the street fairly quickly. So the last few encampments that we have closed have not lasted until 10 days. We continue to show up there, but most individuals have vacated that property prior to the 10-day notice. We have not had any issues with any kind of vacating either, so there was no need for police intervention at the 10-day notice. Even the ones that lasted until 10 days, people left very willingly under, good conditions. It is still a struggle. We're still trying. What we're seeing is that this is city property, by the way, too. I think it's really important to understand that this is city property. The city is on with the contract with contractors to clean up the sites. So we do not provide the cleaning either. The city does. We are seeing that there's still quite a few encampments on private property, and we're working with the city as well as Union Pacific and others to figure out how we have access to those encampments. The cleanup those is a different situation that we have not been able to come to a solution yet. Fuse is what we think is the future for our community. It's frequent users of systems engagement. I'm really pleased to announce to the board here that we're working directly with Douglas County Corrections. We should have a data report here in the middle of this month that is showing that individuals that are in corrections and come in and out of corrections and we will tie them back to the homeless system. And we're also working with the medical system. It's a little more complicated on that end to get access to that data because of HIPAA controls and things like that. But what we would like to see is we believe there's the operating theory is that there is a group of individuals in our community that are in and out of those three systems. They're either in our ERs, they're either in our corrections, or in our homeless system. We'd like, and we believe we'll eventually get those names, identify those 200 to 300 people, and our goal is to find them permanent housing wrapped around with services and supports while they're in that housing. We're working with the City of Omaha to look at how we can long-term invest in that process, find a way to subsidize those properties, at least those apartments or rental facilities or facility-based positions, and then build out the supportive services around them. We do believe this will directly relate to our housing issue on the streets. Right now, our encampment process is working very well at moving people. And that's its first and primary goal, is to move people, get encampments cleaned up, and hopefully find other options for people to be housed. We're hoping that long-term strategies like this actually give us direct-to-housing opportunities. Other great partners in this is also Region 6. The behavioral health system is also combined in that. And we have a national expert from the Corporation of Supportive Housing that has done this in multiple locations around the nation that's currently helping us. The last part of my presentation today is really just to talk to you about the great work that this board has done with general assistance and the support that we've received directly from their staff and that program. First off, they are a vital partner in our work to keep and get people housed. And their staff have done great work of jumping in crisis. They worked with us on City View. We wouldn't have gotten about 30 to 40 people housed out of City View without direct intervention from general assistance. They were actively involved in the hotel raids. So if you guys remember, a few months ago, there were 4 hotels that were raided in an FBI sting on sex trafficking. There was quite a few individuals that would have been homeless as soon as those properties were closed. Great partnership with general assistance to make sure that those individuals who did not qualify for other programs, many of them qualified for sex offender, victims of sex offenders and trafficking programs, they received those services. But anybody who didn't qualify for that, general assistance was right there to help us. They are a direct partner with Sienna Francis and some of our largest shelters, making sure that individuals who can come out of those systems and out of our shelters have a place to go and stay with some kind of subsidized and secured housing. Enormously important. It is even more important today probably than it was a few months ago. In September 30th of this year, the last COVID funds have wrapped up. Threshold COC gave out $120 million in rental and utilities assistance across the county, mainly in the city of Omaha, to help people stay housed. We no longer have access to those funds or anything near those funds. With the change in our federal housing, with the permanent supportive housing and the rapid rehousing, another option to keep people housed is general assistance, and we are much appreciative for the opportunity that lays before you. We are continue to look at ways that we can subsidize this. Privately, we receive about $1.5 million from foundations here in our community. We use those dollars to leverage back with general assistance, pay for application fees, deposits, things like that, to make sure people have access to housing. But I can't say enough how important of a program that is to our community. I know, I believe it's in statute to have one, but to the level that you guys have, excuse me on some of my ignorance, but to the level that you guys have, I don't think is required, and I can't tell you enough from the individual overseeing the homeless system and those access points for individuals, and with the environment that we're dealing with increased rental costs and all those other costs for low and moderate income families. It is becoming one of our only lifelines that we have, and I just am appreciative to have it at any level, but at its current level is an extraordinary program for our community. I went through a lot of that pretty fast. I'm really here for questions, but I wanted to give you an overview and a chance to have a conversation about what we see and where we see things headed.
Thank you so much for that presentation. We'll go ahead and jump into conversation here, starting with Commissioner Kavanaugh.
Thank you. Jason, thanks for this.
Yeah, please.
With snow on the ground outside, I think it was 19 when I pulled into the building this morning. This is an acute problem. But just to get clear in my own head, a couple of things that you said.
Please.
At the outset, and I don't see, it'd be like page 4 or 5, where we're talking about the every dollar counts 2025 federal funding.
Yep.
Page. I think you indicated, and I could be wrong on this, that the overall number is about 9. We have been getting 7 in secured and then 2 in the competition amount, and that seems to have flipped. Is that right?
Yeah, we received 7.1 in 24, was supposed to be continued in 25. The new competition is only securing 2 million, for guaranteed secure for 2 million. The remaining 7.6, which we're eligible for now, is up for competition.
With the whole country?
Yes.
Couldn't that have a really bad impact on us?
Yeah, we're 400 plus units that are supported by that 7.1 million, and quite a few staff that are also supported in those programs. We're probably down to about 120 affordable, consistent homeless units if we would lose all and only get the 2 million. I think we're competitive enough to get in the range of the 7.1, but with that being said, it's still going to be a drastic change in how those programs are delivered. There's no longer going to be, from a federal perspective, support for permanent supportive housing. In other words, if you need housing, we're going to help pay for it, and you can stay there as long as you need, which are usually our most acute and high-level needs in our community. Federal government is moving away from permanent supportive housing. They want to move back to transitional housing, which is about a time limit of about 24 months with services wrapped around, but there will be work requirements and other rehab needs to go with that.
So that's a move from basically secure permanent housing to housing insecurity, permanent insecurity housing. I mean, if you're competing on this on an annual basis, you can't make any long-term plans. right?
Yeah, it's much more complicated to make those long-term.
I think you indicated in here too that they've eliminated entirely rent support.
Yes,
Is that correct?
yeah. Except for in those secured 2 million, yes.
Okay. So we're looking at a massive federal cutback in funding.
I guess I will answer the question this way. We're looking at a massive change in our compliance to the federal regulations and the outcomes and strategies the federal government lays before us. I'm not quite certain of the cutback yet, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it looks uncertain. That's the problem.
Yes, yeah.
Right. I have one other quick question. We may have to come back on this encampment issue. Have all the encampments around town been shut down, moved out?
No, most of those that initially were on city property, we are starting to address. The other issues we have is private property, NRD, and some of those other property gaps that we either A, don't have access to, or the city can't go on and close because it isn't their property. So we're starting to run into that process now. Okay, what's the next step of this?
We'll come back on that
Yep.
in just a second. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll go to Commissioner Borgeson.
Thank you. So I was reading from the National Alliance to End Homelessness. They have a data map, and Nebraska as a whole is in line for about 1,300 people to lose the housing due to these changes, and that's about an $11 million hit to those the funding for that permanent housing that right now people are in.
Yes.
That they're not going to be in.
Yes.
And so we're actually, which is ironic to me, making the problem worse than better at this point. But there's also the 44% of the permanent housing beds in Nebraska are funded by our COC programs, and that includes the 40% permanent supportive housing and 51% of the rapid rehousing.
Yes.
So when we break that down and come all the way down to Douglas County, we're still at that, what you had in here, almost 11 million alone for Douglas County that we're going to feel the pains of. So in full disclosure, I'm on the Reimagine board, which works with the homeless, and we've been trying really hard to come up with innovative ideas with all of you, and work with the ordinance that the city has. Nobody wants encampments. I mean, that's just a given, but you know, criminalizing it and bulldozing and throwing all of their possessions, regardless of whether you think they're good possessions or bad possessions, they're their possessions. And there's been cases where people's IDs have been thrown away, where their clothing has been thrown away. They have a pet, and their pet things have been thrown away. And so to me, that's just as inhumane as, again, people saying, well, leaving them out in the cold is inhumane. But again, I think what we have in place are people who know how to work with those individuals to get them to understand that there are other resources and services that could potentially help. And so I thank you for the work that you're doing, for being here to, again, give us the data, give us the, you know, the lowdown, if you will, on what really are the facts, instead of all the hype around homelessness. These are people's lives that we are dealing with. And again, I've not walked in a homeless person's shoes, but I've been out there doing the count, and it is an extraordinary experience. And again, they're humans, and I appreciate the work that you all have done and again, bringing us this information, but we have a lot of work to do. So
Absolutely.
whatever we can do, let us know. But I also agree the importance of general assistance when it comes to working with our folks that are homeless, regardless of what system they're coming out of. They're an important piece. And as you said, we saw that with City View, but we see it all the time, every day with our clients. So again, thank you. And then if there's any other data that happens to come across specific to Douglas County, if you could pass that along, I would appreciate it.
I sure will. Yeah, and when we have a
Bless you.
report, especially from the Fuse report and the corrections numbers, we'll share it with the board.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Commissioner Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So are you staying for the discussion for the general assistance rules later in the agenda? Are you staying?
I'm going to try, yes.
Okay.
I'm
All right.
trying to move one meeting, but yes.
Okay, let me ask you, the Omaha EPP page.
Yep.
Explain to me, I got the notice thing. Explain to me, service of notice of closure encampment 7 to 10 days, scheduled cleaning contract. What does that mean by 72-hour notice if returned within 14 days?
Oh, yeah. We had to build a policy. If an encampment is closed, we weren't going to reissue another 10-day notice. So if people were moved, it was cleaned, and then people came back within 2 weeks, we weren't going to issue another 10-day notice. It's a 72-hour notice, basically, to say, this encampment's already been cleaned and closed. You have 72 hours to leave. So we had to figure out when we would restart the clock for that 10-day notice. And right now, we're piloting a 14-day period.
So, okay, place is cleaned, somebody comes there, they don't have 10, you got 72.
You got 72 with an immediate notification of closure.
Okay. Explain, so the Douglas County General Assistance page you had, you're gonna have to tell me off record how you got this Fuse thing to work, because I remember having them up in a room 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And the lack of a better term, the homeless shelter politics were incredible. And
Yeah.
I'm glad to see you got it done. So I'd be curious to see how you got that done.
You know what? I have to be truly honest with you. No magic on my end. Actually, the shelters brought it to me.
Really?
Yeah. I actually have to give all the credit to Linda Toomey, the executive director down at Sienna Francis. She said, "Hey, have you?" So I've been at Threshold now.
This is Fuse in Minneapolis.
Yeah, same
Okay,
idea.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah, she brought it to me in that 3 years ago I took the executive director job here, and I don't come from homeless services. I come from child welfare and juvenile justice. And so she kind of brought it to me and said, have you seen this best practice? I think this would be a great thing for our community. And then Common Spirit, CHI, was very interested in it, so they provided the initial grant funding for the consultation. And that's how we got the lift and got it off the ground. And now it's like brief, not fully formal presentation, but what we've seen is what we believe is any person that's going into corrections that is identified as a homeless risk by their assessment, by corrections assessment, is 2 times more likely to be arrested more than once.
Oh, no. I know it intimately. I just need to know the story because I just interested in how you cracked that code.
Yeah, it really, I think we've worked really hard to get people to the table and find, like I said, you saw our red numbers. We have to have solutions that are outside of our normal, standard, traditional approach because we're not meeting the population where it is.
So, lastly, with time, on the bottom of the general assistance page, explain to me how you see this match thing would work. Because I'm assuming it's going to have some implication in this discussion we have later.
The math part of it?
The match to private funding piece.
Yeah, so one thing we're looking at is we've asked the city to look at kind of a give towards their affordable housing. So they're giving money to the affordable housing. One thing we've gone to the city and said, could we get 10 cents on the dollar for that? We continue to match that with our private dollars and then also look at general assistance as a third peg to that funding source. And we believe we can subsidize quite a few units across this community to work towards Fuse.
Okay. Yeah, however long you can hang out for that
Yeah,
discussion. I
yeah, I'm
appreciate it.
here for you.
Thanks.
Thank you. We'll go to Commissioner Kavanaugh. You got a light on, Commissioner Kavanaugh?
Yep.
Yep.
Just real quick, getting back to where we were on this encampment population. You know, I see these numbers here, the chronic homeless number of 2714. But I don't know if we have a number for these folks in encampments. Do you have a approximate number of people that are in these encampments?
Yeah, if you go to page 2, column, it's the second one to the right. It said number of unsheltered. That's our official federal funding, or our official HUD numbers. Those are called the PIT count numbers. PIT stands for point in time. It's a federal requirement.
That's 224 in the latest number from
Yes,
2024.
in 2024, yes.
Okay.
We have informal numbers for 2025. HUD just hasn't.
But I'm just trying
approved
to, the number that we're looking at for people who might be sleeping out in the snow would be more like 224 than this 2714 number.
it. Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Yes. And the 224, those chronic individuals, as our chronicity keeps going up, is pushing individuals into the street. So that's our theory of operation.
Yeah, it's gone up from, I think the first number here is 2019, 77.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
kind of skyrocketed.
Yeah, we definitely have a trend.
Yeah. So they've made these encampments, they've cleared the ones on public property, is that correct?
Yes, or in the process of clearing,
Okay.
yes.
And the number of people that have been displaced from those encampments, do we know that number?
I don't have that number yet. We're pulling that together for a report right after December, so I haven't pulled those numbers yet since I didn't get them yesterday.
Be good to know.
Yeah.
And then the subset of that number is, I think the phrase that you used on that was that we're trying to get them in, let's see, work to find housing for those folks. Okay. Say there was 50 of them today. Do they all have roofs over their heads tonight?
No.
So some of them have just been moved from the encampment at Saddle Creek and Cummings to another place outside.
Yes.
Do we know how many of those folks are there?
I should know by the end of the week. We're working with street outreach to calculate those numbers.
Okay. Well, they'd have a tendency to die in this weather if they're sleeping out, wouldn't they?
It's extremely dangerous, yes.
Okay. Do we track that number?
Actually, well, I mean, can I ask a question? To clarify it.
Homeless person that shows up at the morgue, I guess, would be.
Yes, we do know how many people die a year. Yeah.
And do we have since this has started, do we have an idea of anybody die?
No one has passed away since we've started this in Highland.
Well, that's good. But going forward, that would be a real important number to keep track of.
Yeah.
And there have been people displaced that you have found places for them to be in, right?
Yes. Yes.
What are those places, basically?
Several have gone to shelters. We know of some individuals that have utilized a network that they weren't utilizing. So, okay, I guess I need to go to an actual quote from one individual was, I guess I need to go to my sister's. Some people have actually moved out of town, so went back home.
I'd be most concerned about them just because, it's 19 degrees out and there's snow on the ground, and working with you on that. So let's contact after the meeting and see what we
that'd be
can
great.
do on that. That's cute, yeah. Thanks. Thanks for the good work you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments or questions on the presentation? If not, you have something?
Anything else?
You might want to stay close, Chase. Go ahead, Larry.
Can I speak?
Yes.
Your mic needs adjusting or something.
All right.
My ears too. Larry Storr, 5015 Lafayette.
Avenue, 68132. I live in the Dundee area, but I monitor almost every day, sometimes more than one day, parts of the Dundee and the Walnut Hill area. And I've never heard anybody talk about the homeless situation in those two districts right around between Cummings Street, Hamilton Street, 50th Street, and 45th Street. A big problem. I'd be happy to take you on an ollie trolley tour of that area and show you what I'm talking about. But the homeless people in that area, and there must be different levels of homeless, breaking into houses. Some of those houses have been burned down. They finally tore one down, the city did. But in both sides of the Northwest Radio Highway, not just one area, a large area. But they also breaking into other vacant houses. You can drive through there and see all the boarded up windows. Apartment buildings that are destroyed, windows boarded up, because these homeless people are breaking into things all around. And also into people's trash cans, residents' trash cans, and leaving a mess on the streets. Now the city apparently has finally started taking a hand on that situation, but not for a long, long time. You could go down Cummings Street to where it goes north, and the encampment was there for God knows how long. And then they finally started clearing that out every day, but they come back, clear it out every day. Well, now all of a sudden they don't come back. So did they lock them up or what? But we've got another problem in that area, and it needs to be looked into. There's, like I say, different levels of homeless. However, if you look at those apartment buildings on the west side of the radio, very run down. Well, guess what? They're maybe not all homeless. There may be a lot of refugees, particularly from Sudan. And some of those refugees are coming across the radio and hanging out in some of those encampments, hanging out in front of the doorway of the Mega Saver, and it's a safety hazard. It's a threat to the public. It's a threat to the employees of that building, that ownership. I have talked with some of the manager there, and I have observed this for a long time. I didn't bring my phone. I've got probably 40 or 50 photos I could show you. It needs to be talked about. It needs to be stopped. But as I started watching who is still now hanging out and causing a problem, it appears to be mostly, black population for probably across the street. They're coming over there to hang out. Maybe they go back to their apartment. But they're hanging out in front of the public pathways, clogging up the pathways, the doors, and the pumps. It is the city property. Every property in this town belongs to the city and the county. None of it is private property. We expect you to protect the public, city and county. So that needs to be talked about. It needs to be cleaned up. And one of the things that needs to be talked about is this part of the city's plan for development? Because you can look at the area is now pretty blighted, but they're developing places that have a lot better shape than that area. So they're not telling us something there. It needs to be discussed openly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan Esch, Douglas County Clerk, but just speaking as someone who shops a lot along the Saddle Creek area. I mean, I disagree with the description of the population. It's all walks of life. So I don't know why. Anyway, that comment really irritated me because I'm up there weekly, and there's all sorts of people struggling, hanging out along that street. So I personally don't feel like it's any one sort of demographic other than just all sorts of people having trouble right now, and that seems to be an area of town where A lot of folks are, I mean, I don't disagree that there are a lot of folks that appear to be unhoused that are, along Saddle Creek, but it irritated me that the last speaker seemed to just chose to highlight one demographic of the population. I've noticed people of all walks of life along there, so thank you.
Thank you. Comments?
Luis Humanis, 2709 Dewey Avenue. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Nice to see you. I don't think there's any encampments along Saddle Creek. They're elsewhere. I think that the plan that is brought forward, partnered with the city, is ad hoc. I think you guys need a more responsible role in this plan. And I've been telling you about that for a long time since I've been coming here, because you just go over there at the catwalk, okay? Commissioners over there, city council's over there, mayor's office is up there. So if you can get something together that is impactful, it will be transformational. One thing that when the ordinance was brought forward about the encampment, that it was going to criminalize homelessness or whatever. There's a whole bunch of laws in the books. And the thing is that police have, or law enforcement have discretion. And they're just not going to throw somebody in the slammer just because they're they have a tent out or whatever. So I think that the police, law enforcement have a role to play, especially when, my God, it's cold out there, somebody's out there, they want help, the police are going to take them somewhere to be safe. Okay, so the police need to be involved in whatever plan that the mayor has, but do work with the mayor. I think that the last decade anyway, there was some sort of misunderstanding that the city was going to deal with homelessness, and you guys were going to deal with general assistance. You should be dealing with general assistance, population, and homelessness. That's your purview, and the city can supplement that. So I think there's some 10 cents to the dollar that there was talked about. I think that the development that's happening, if there's not affordable housing in a development, then each unit should be assessed $10,000 because to go to the city coffers to support affordable housing and also these things that keep people homeless. I don't know if that's I don't know if you understand it. Maybe outside the city limits you might. But anyway, my point being is that it's high time that you work with the city. And I watched the debate before the city council, and Jason, you did a much better job talking about this issue today than 2 months ago, a month ago, whatever it was. So that's a good sign. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments or questions on the presentation? If not, we'll go ahead and conclude. Thank you so much, Jason, again for coming by, and third time was a charm to get it presented. So thank you again. And we'll go ahead and advance on our agenda here. We do have 2 items under public hearings, section 7. We'll tackle item A first, which is a public hearing for Class C license for the Chef Around the Block, LLC DBA The Block Culinarium at the address presented on the final agenda with manager application for Daniel Benigno. I will go ahead and open the public hearing for this item. And go ahead, sir.
Hi, Dan Benigno, chef around the block, Block Culinarium at 1221 Mary Plaza, 2221 Mary Plaza, Suites 101 through 104.
Very
What's
good.
next?
Thank you for being here. There may or may not be questions. Any questions or comments during this public hearing from board or from public? If not, I will go ahead and close the public hearing. What is the will of the board? Motion to approve by Borgeson, second by Friend. Please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
All right. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Next, we have a public hearing for item B, which is a hearing to permit discussion and the presentation of testimony regarding the proposed revisions for the 2026-2027 Department of General Assistance guidelines. Here today, we have Director Melissa Seawick.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Melissa Seawick, Director of General Assistance. This morning, I'm going to provide a brief overview of our program, looking at the mandate, the types of assistance we provide, some overall statistics on our program, and then the proposals before you for our 26-27 guidelines. Following the presentation, we'll open up the public hearing for additional comment. Before moving into the details, I just wanted to reiterate what I have communicated to the board during previous guideline reviews, budget discussions, one-on-one conversations, and again throughout this biennial review. Department's funding levels are not sufficient to sustain the program in its existing form. We've now reached the point with even in cost savings in other areas of our budget, we'll be unable to carry the program through the remaining of the fiscal year without supplemental funding. And even if additional funds are identified to get us through the remainder of the fiscal year, we are going to be in the same situation again in fiscal year 26-27, unless eligibility criteria are redefined. When resources are limited, we're forced to make difficult decisions to ensure the preservation of our program for individuals who truly have no other means of support. I'm very aware of the significant needs in our community, particularly among low-income and unhoused individuals, and I do not take the recommendations we've made for these next guideline review lightly. Despite these proposed updates, our program in Douglas County continues to stand as one of the most robust supports in the state, potentially even in the nation. Each of you have a table summarizing the general assistance programs in 5 comparison counties, along with a snapshot of the key proposals for the 26-27 relative to our current guidelines. This information, together with a PowerPoint presentation and program overview, was provided to you all last Tuesday. So each county in the state of Nebraska is mandated to have a general assistance program. Every single county in the state of Nebraska operates it differently. As I stated just a minute ago, that our program is the most robust in the county, or out of all of the counties in Nebraska, and based on the research that's been done, the most robust in the nation. So with the mandate that you guys, the county has, you guys can determine how general assistance is implemented. What does that include? The dollar amount, who is eligible for services, and then every 2 years, we have a biennial guideline review where we look at our guidelines for the next 2 years. So for the 2024-2025, the current general assistance programs that we have to assist to ensure the maintenance and minimum health and decency standards are shelter assistance. So that is going to be rent, utilities, and mortgage assistance. The maximum amount of assistance that an individual or married couple can receive each month is $800. Married couples are eligible for an additional $100 utility stipend. And this is single individuals and married couples without dependent children. We do not have any families that is covered under the state's assistance that they provide. A typical client of ours is going to be between the ages of 19 and 67. We also have non-food necessities voucher, so $25 a month to assist with things that individual cannot purchase through SNAP. So usually personal hygiene items and things to, clean. We have bus tickets that we provide to individuals that are approved on the program, and then we have a clothing voucher as well, where it's $80 gift card that they can get annually to assist with seasonally appropriate clothing. We also have transportation outside of Douglas County. That's going to look at an individual that has been in Douglas County for less than 6 months that is looking to go back to a city or state outside of Douglas County, and we can assist them with a bus voucher to get back home. And then we also provide cremation assistance to anybody who has passed away within Douglas County or was a resident of Douglas County that their family or themselves do not have the means to cover the expenses for that cremation. So the determinants of eligibility for our current standards, you have to be a Douglas County resident, a United States citizen, or lawfully present in the United States, and eligible for other public assistance programs. That excludes SNAP and LIHEAP, so food assistance and energy assistance you can still receive via the state and be eligible for our program. And then you have to have insufficient income and resources to meet those needs. This is just a snapshot looking back at the last 5 years of our program numbers. It's pretty much been between 1,300 and about 1,500 unique clients that are on our program at any given point throughout the year. So the key proposals for the 2026-2027 guidelines are, one, the biggest thing is affecting these proposals is our budgetary constraints. And then to better align with the statutory intent of our program to maintain a person's standards. And then looking at other county general assistance programs to kind of mirror what some of them are doing. We're trying our best to balance compassion with fiscal responsibility and program integrity of our program. What we're proposing is to refining the eligibility criteria. Currently, if a person is between the ages of 19 and 64 and they meet the income and resource limits, they are eligible for ongoing assistance. So up to $800 in rental assistance indefinitely, as long as they meet the income and resource guidelines. We are looking to kind of have two pathways to eligibility, looking at folks that are medically able to work and the folks that are medically unable to work. And establishing annual limits for the folks that are medically able to work. So we're looking at employability status. So disabled folks, we are considering those medically unable to work. Able-bodied, we're mirroring that verbiage off of what the state is doing, and that is medically able to work. We are, so for the disabled individuals, they are eligible for ongoing assistance pending the outcome of their Social Security Administration application or until the disability no longer prevents them from being employed. We are that would require them the doctor filling out a medical statement, and it's looking at any type of medical reason that they're unable to work. It's not just focused on like physical disability, it's looking at mental health, developmental disabilities, and things such as that. And then for folks that are able-bodied, so an individual that is medically able to work, they would be eligible for up to 3 consecutive months of assistance annually. And that is going to be for short-term crisis stabilization. And with this, if we are able to redefine the eligibility criteria, we would like to also propose increase in our shelter payment schedule. As Jason stated earlier, that rent continues to increase. The fair market rent for an efficiency unit right now, I believe, is $990. Our current maximum we're able to pay is $800. We're looking to increase it to $850. We have talked to the landlords, and it seems like an even additional $50 a month to help with utility cost is something that could get us to onboard more landlords. This is just a snapshot showing some of our direct client services. It's not all of them. It's looking at where we have the greatest expenses. You can see that our rental obligations, our shelter expenses are our greatest budgetary cost, and they have continued to increase over the years. The medical client aid, we don't have any data on that since Medicaid expanded, and all of our clients are now eligible and approved for Medicaid as long as they meet those requirements. So we do not offer medical assistance anymore. And then looking at the non-food, burials, assisted living, bus services, and client utilities, all of those have remained pretty steady. This is a snapshot of our clients that are within their current eligibility period. So every client that comes in has to complete a face-to-face interview with our department, and we determine eligibility based on the information they provide to us, looking at bank accounts, pay stubs, their lease, to see if they've applied for Social Security, any income resources, things such as that. And so when they're approved, we establish an eligibility period that is 1 year. And so we have 961 clients that are within that eligibility period right now. So any month, we have up to 961 clients that are eligible for general assistance. And if they, some of these clients are currently suspended. So if they didn't turn in a monthly reporting form or if they were over income 1 month, that would be what we say is like a 1 month suspension. So then we would look at assistance the next month. I think it's important to see, and I've stated this before, is that we rely on not all of our clients finding rental assistance. And that's not coming from, we would love it if they all did, but if 961 clients all received $800, we don't have enough money in our budget, period, to have that happen. About 53% of our clients at the time of their application did not have any current shelter expenses. So those were clients coming to us that were possibly living with another individual, couch surfing, living at a shelter, or they were unhoused on the street. We had about 27% of our clients that are currently reporting that they are unhoused. And so again, that is couch surfing at a shelter or unhoused on the streets. About 49 to 51% of our clients are expressing that they have a medical barrier to employment at the time of the application. That's not saying that they have provided the medical documentation to support that. That is their verbal declaration to us at the time of application. And that, I think, is an important statistic to look at, especially when we're looking to possibly redefine like our eligibility and have those two pathways. Is about 50% of our clients declare they're medically able to work, and about 50% declare that they're medically unable to work. And this is a snapshot looking at the August through October of this year, the number of clients who received shelter assistance. So that would be either rent, mortgage, or utility assistance. In October, 451 clients, so out of the 961 clients, received shelter assistance. And then we have the breakdown in the shelter assistance that we have distributed. Based on these projections alone, we are looking at hopefully being able to get through April as far as our rental allotment for our budget. Right now, we are 8.4%, as of yesterday, 8.4% over our rental account budget where we should be. The average rental payment is typically around $620 to $650. Average utility payment is between $55 and $60. So we are in our biennial guideline review. We have had our proposed guidelines posted at your guys' office, Department of General Assistance, Sheriff's Office, the City Clerk of Bennington Valley, Ralston, and Village of Waterloo, and at all of the public libraries. We have posted notifications to all of the landlords and vendors we work with to match listserv, so that's our thresholds listserv, looking at all of the different organizations within the continuum. Or it's posted for our clients. We have received minimal feedback, which is kind of par for the course. We've heard from, I think, more people that are just talking about how valuable general assistance is. and are thankful for the program. We've had some landlords request that we pay a year in advance of rent. So if a client signs a year lease, the lease is with the landlord. We are just a payer that they would like us to guarantee payment for 12 months and pay that in advance, whether a person falls off the program or not. And then if we could assist with some repaying of if there's any damage done to the property. And then I have heard from two people from nonprofits that have concerns with decreasing any benefits or any limitations that we have on our program. So the next steps, so we are opening up the public hearing to accept additional comments. Based on this discussion, the feedback we've received so far, we can revise the proposed guidelines, and then our goal, our plan is to bring it back to the board on December 16th for approval, and these guidelines would be effective January 1, and they would be effective January 1, 2026 to the end of 2027. Ultimately, the decision of how our program moves forward rests with the board. We will continue to work diligently to ensure the county's most vulnerable residents are supported in meeting their essential needs during their times of crisis. So I guess if you guys have comments, feedback, or anybody else.
Thank you so much. We will get into discussion, starting with Commissioner Kavanaugh.
Can I,
Oh, yes.
1 second. So we did provide can you pull that?
Yeah, and they have them.
Okay, the snapshot, the 5.
So we've got.
So it would probably be with this one if there's 2 tabs open.
I have. Here, let me just. It's these two.
It would be the countywide. This one right here, yep. Okay, this is very small, but each of you have a copy. And so this is a snapshot of, it includes general assistance for Douglas County, but then looking at Dodge County, Nebraska, Lancaster County, Polk County, Iowa, Pottawatomie County, Iowa, and Sarpy County, Nebraska. It has their population information, unemployment rates, budget when I was able to get that information, and then the types of assistance they authorize, and then just comparing our program to theirs. If you are reviewing this, you can see that, again, even with these proposals, our program still offers more monthly assistance as far as the value, more ongoing assistance, and then the services we do provide, or the assistance we do provide, is more than any of the other counties. I was unable to get the budget information for Polk County, Iowa, because their general assistance funding is under the umbrella of a lot of other stuff. So that was public record, but they were going to get that to me, and I have not received that yet. So I hope you guys were able to take time to review that, but I think that's important to be able to look at. I have talked to all of the directors or the person in charge of their general assistance program, so all of this information was provided by them.
Thank you. We'll go with Commissioner Kavanaugh.
Thanks for this. On the rent and shelter assistance, what are we at now?
How much we can pay?
I think I read that it's a maximum of, is it 800?
A maximum of $800 per month, and then a married couple is eligible for an additional $100 per month for a
Yeah, if
utility
there's
stipend.
2 people, it's
Yes.
900?
Yes.
Okay. And what's the change under the proposed?
We're looking to increase it to $850
A
maximum.
flat 850?
Yes.
Why wouldn't we do the same 2 categories that we're currently doing?
There's not funding for it.
Okay. I think we heard from the previous testifier about the average rental costs in Douglas County, and it seems to be like for an efficiency apartment, I believe he said it was like 800.
Actually, for an efficiency, the fair market rent.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
The fair market rent for an efficiency in Douglas County is either $990 or $998 right now.
Okay. And we've checked this going back because we use it when we're looking at mill levy settings. But department turn back to Douglas County, and general assistance is usually on there for some dollar amount. Do you recall what dollar amount the general assistance budget turned back to the general fund this year?
We spent 97% of our budget. I believe we returned maybe about $400,000, and that was not out of direct client services. That was looking at administrative fees.
So if we put that extra, like we have now, the two-tier, we would be at like 850 and then 950, where we're at 800 and 900 now.
If you would look
Just
at the
forward
$100,
the
yes,
two-tier.
if that's what you would wish to do,
Okay.
yes.
Do we know the fiscal impact of that versus what is proposed here?
I can get that additional
Okay.
100.
What I'm saying is, if we had a little bit of, wiggle room in the turnback, let's use it and maybe do that if we could. And we've got till, I think, the 16th to actually finalize these, right?
Yes, and I would just like to point out that when I'm saying that we will not have enough money to get us through the fiscal year, that is counting on our administrative fees not being exhausted. That's counting on our payroll, which is currently under budget, remaining under budget, and already pulling from that. So
Sure.
there's
Yeah.
not wiggle room within our current budget.
Yeah. We're all struggling with that. If I read this correctly, though, your client numbers are going up, right?
Yes.
Okay. So despite the new day in America being great again, we're dealing with people without homes, roofs over their heads during winter months, and the inability to meet fair market rents going forward. I think we should try to look at how we can do that better and wait for this renaissance to actually occur so that we can spread the wealth a little bit with the greatness of America's new dawn. But I appreciate what you do, and the previous Jason's testimony to the great job you do, I think, is something that we should all be grateful for. So thank you.
Thank you. Other Commissioner, we'll go to Commissioner Borgeson.
Thanks, Melissa. When we see in the homeless population, we see the aging increasing. Do we see that? Like, can you give us? You said the range is like 19
to 67.
19 to 67. Can you give us a breakdown of those?
Yeah, I'll absolutely provide that. Last I looked, it was about 30%, as like looking at the age groups. So between the ages of 19 and 25, and then looking at 26 to about 49, was about another 30%, and then the elderly population. But we definitely are seeing an increase, and we also see an increase in calls of folks that are over the age of 67 that are receiving Social Security, and so they don't meet our income and resource guidelines, that they are over income, but we see them calling and we try to refer them elsewhere. But there definitely is an increase in that.
So we could go back, or could we go back, and like over the last 3 years or 5 years, whatever, say, here's what that last age group was, and this is what it is today?
Yeah, I can
Just
go.
so we can see the incremental percentage of increase, and because unfortunately, if we're seeing that in the homeless population, I think we're gonna see it, obviously, in our population as well, but I'd like to have a better understanding of what that is.
Yes, I can get that for you.
And then whether or not they're single or coupled. And then when the transportation is outside of Douglas County, it has to be within the 6-month period in our current guidelines. So how many do we know of that came past that 6 month and asked for a bus ticket and we couldn't give it to them because of that?
I can pull that because we would know why a person was denied. I think those are pretty rare because the referrals that we get are typically going to be from a shelter or if they contact 211, and so they're typically referring us the appropriate person, but I can definitely pull and see how many folks we turn away for being considered more of a resident of Douglas County.
And that, again, is it's a one-time thing? Do we have people who come back and try to go out again? Do we see that?
That's been really, really rare where
Rare.
I've heard about that. Typically, it's a person just trying to get back where they came from. And we do verify that they had somewhere to go because we don't want to send somebody back to a different city or state where they're going to be homeless. And so we verify that they have a place to live, that can't be a shelter, or they have a place of employment before we send them as well. But I can get that information for you of how many people were denied because they'd been here greater than 6 months.
And then I do want to thank Mary from the League of Women Voters who brought up the issue of maybe instead of 3 months, it's 4 months or 6 months or whatever. But can we get and I like that idea, but I'd like to see what the cost difference is if we increased it by up to the 4 month or the 5 month or the 6 month, what that would look like budgetarily for us.
Yes. And that I will do like a per person, because what is difficult, like when I showed there's 961 clients that are currently eligible for general assistance, how many of them are actually receiving rental assistance from us, have found a place, but I can give you a per person number, what the difference would be for max assistance for 3 months and then up to 6 months.
Thank you. Let me go to Commissioner Rogers.
So I guess let me start with a finance question in general. General assistance falls under the lid, right? So I guess I'm just putting this in a markdown for when we do the legislative stuff. You have the lid, but then you have the statute that says the payer of last resort, and that doesn't add up. And so can you put that on the list to kind of deal with in the legislative session? So, Melissa, help me, so what has been your budget increases over the years? What's been your budget increases over the years? Because this is what I'm trying to get at. I'm curious. Your the slide you had, the FY 22-23 number, increase-wise, the slide shows 1498. And now it's down last 2 years, then it's 1498. And I guess I'm just trying to get I can't recall it all. I think I got an idea. You all have met your number. I guess I'm trying to see what's the difference what's the main reason for the able-body change being made 4 years later when the number in 22-23 was the same as it is now?
Because not all of our clients actually are using the voucher. So we have all 961 right now, 961 clients that are eligible for general assistance. And if you look at which one is it? So page 9 of the shelter assistance issued for October, we assisted 451. So 961 people are eligible for general assistance on some level. 451 people received assistance. So we have increased rent assistance. Last guideline review, we increased it. And then we have a standard housing deduction. We discussed at length last guideline review. That was previously $150, and that was increased to $300, where we allowed clients to have $300 of an exempt income. And so that affects how much we can pay. So if we're exempting $300 versus $150 of their budget, that's $150 extra we're going to have to pay per individual. And we also have an individual who about 2 years ago came on board, and their focus is primarily landlord engagement and working with clients one-on-one to help them with housing. And so we have a housing stability clinic every Tuesday where individuals come in and we meet with them one-on-one to help them with their application, help them get deposit assistance, application fee assistance. and work with them, kind of looking at their background and information and trying to find an appropriate housing for them. So we are finding that we're getting more clients housed as well, which is increasing our cost, which is a good thing.
So really the 4-year difference is the cost of housing over the 4 years.
The cost of housing, the number of clients that are utilizing the actual shelter assistance voucher versus just receiving non-food and bus tickets. So the number of clients that we are able to assist in housing has increased as well.
Okay, I'm probably have to come back, but I'm gonna set this context up. So help me, I'm trying to illustrate this water flow. So you have, if the Fed does a cut to an assistance program, it'll come to the state. State does the cut comes to us to likely make up this difference. So let's say if the Medicaid work requirement, if there's a cut in people in Medicaid, it'll go down to the state, they adopt that, it kind of goes, and that comes back here. Well, I'll come back on the next round.
All right, we'll go to Commissioner Borgeson.
Thank you. So the other data point that you have how many, for direct client service on page 7, like the non-food client aid, those are those
the Dollar General
the
gift
Dollar
cards,
General
yes.
thing, and so we're looking, it's not a whole lot, but it's, about 200,000.
Yes.
The burials, which, again, they're all about that. So has there been talk about, because we see the huge need on the rent piece, are there things that we should, in like client utilities, there's a lot of utility assistance programs out there. Is that something that maybe we should have the conversation, or maybe it's not time for this guideline review, but, instead of doing that one, we put it towards the rent? So we, again, I understand that that goes in with housing as well, but there's other programs out there that could assist in the utilities versus us assisting in the utilities. Or when it comes to the assisted living, explain that one just a little bit.
So for assisted living, those are individuals that we have a medical statement for, and it says that they cannot live alone at this time, and those individuals are going to be pending Social Security, and we are assisting with their assisted living cost while they're at an assisted living facility until they get approved Social Security.
But they're GA eligible through our process
Yes.
first.
Yes,
And
and those
then they're awaiting.
Yes, and those individuals were paying the assisted living rates, which is about $1,200, $1,400 a month. And so some of those individuals, unfortunately, are not approved Social Security, so they have to go back through the process. But those numbers are those are not as many clients, but we definitely have clients with that. And with the utilities, that's something we definitely can look at. But we also we refer clients to apply for state utility assistance. So at LIHEAP, we refer them to apply for OPBD and MUD assistance as well. So we are looking at if they can get their needs met through other resources for any of these things, we're absolutely going to refer them and have them do that so we can use the money elsewhere.
So they go to those first and then come back to us.
We refer them, and we, like LIHEAP, we can see if they've made a payment on their utility statements, and with that, we won't, we only pay, depending on what their balance is on their utility assistance, and then with MUD and OPPD, it's through Dollar Energy that we refer them to, and we're looking for our the gentleman who works with the landlords, for him to kind of do those one-on-one where we can start doing the applications internally ourselves for those. And so that resource is tapped into before general assistance would step up and do that.
Okay. And then the last question, which we probably won't have time, but when on page 8, when you talked about the current eligibility period and the 961 clients where there's 27% that are unhoused, what are we actually, are we just saying they're unhoused, or are we actually providing them something?
Those
they're-
individuals, so all of our clients that are within their current eligibility period are eligible for, at a minimum, the non-food and bus tickets. So we have clients that are just receiving that.
Just
So,
receiving
yes. And so I've expressed it before that we have to do the same amount of work if somebody's getting full benefits versus, or just
partial
non-food. We have to process all of the cases. So all of these clients are processed every single month.
Okay.
All right, we'll go to Commissioner Rogers.
So, okay, so to walk back through this water flow, I guess I'm trying to see, are you budgeted enough? Because, okay, if HR1 takes effect, I'm assuming there are going to be some people trickling off Medicaid. No?
That's up to you guys as a board.
Well, wait a minute, I'm trying to set this up so I'll make sure if I'm right, if this can happen. HR1 happens, the work required, I'm assuming some people trickle down out of Medicaid. We got rid of health care in 19 when Medicaid expansion passed. Is there the possibility that as the payer of last resort, due to the Medicaid effects, that there's going to be some new health costs come down as a payer of last resort?
So
like they were before we had Medicaid.
So our current guidelines and our guidelines historically have had the language that if you are not eligible, you are eligible for another program, and because of your own action or inaction, you're denied those benefits, that the county is not responsible for that, and that also is in state statute. So these individuals that are eligible for Medicaid, and because they didn't comply with Medicaid's requirements, they now have no medical. That is not the responsibility of the county, and that is in state statute.
But there's possibly going to be some people that will, that it's not that they don't qualify, it's just because of the changes, they will not be on Medicaid. So those costs could probably come to us.
So the changes that I know that I'm aware of, all of our clients would still meet eligibility standards. They just would have to comply with job training, work readiness, things like that. And that's where we do see that clients then would lose Medicaid or would lose SNAP historically. But that's where we've fallen back on that it was due to their own actions or inactions. So if the county wanted to handle those situations differently, then absolutely, there's going to be plenty of people that lose their Medicaid or don't qualify for SNAP because of the restrictions that are coming down.
But that's no different than the old way before we had, the way this change, the way I interpret this change is that's no different than what it used to be before Medicaid expansion came in. We used to do that.
Correct.
Okay, so there's a possibility there. There's a realm we were in and we're out. And I want to add that to the point that you got these cuts flowing down, you're under the lid, and we're the payer of last resort. So I'm just laying that budget scenario for when it comes future. So you're going to ask for medical, you're going to ask for proof for medical, but maintain attestation for income?
Well, the proof of medical is because a medical professional has to fill out the medical statement. As far as income and resources, a lot of that is their verbal attestation. We verify through Department of Labor, through the state of Nebraska, through Social Security Administration as much as we can, but a lot of it is.
But you got another way to verify that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
That's consistent. Okay. All right. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll go to Commissioner Friend.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much for the report. Obviously the work's important. It's admirable and it's much needed. What I was going to ask, and I'll go into a short explanation of why I'm asking, as part of the strategic initiative as you're going through this process, Melissa, is it to look at some of the client services, the direct client services that are being provided, and to piggyback a little bit, I hope, on what Commissioner Rogers was saying, is to either enhance or squeeze or say, well, we have done this in the past. We don't necessarily think we can do it anymore, because it seems that rent is paramount. I mean, in a lot of different ways for everyone. And the reason I ask that, and to add on to what Commissioner Rogers was was pointing out, I mean, we know what the feds are doing. We get high level view and we get down in the weeds view. We also know they're predicting, the state is predicting anywhere from, Chris said it was higher, anywhere from 450 million in the red. I mean, before they even get into session. He had mentioned the lids. He had mentioned the lids, which is of great concern as well. The county, approximately 70% of what we're doing, including general assistance, is mandated, approximately. Some of those mandated services are not funded. And of course, we get 13% of the property tax revenue. And I would imagine inheritance tax will go away. It might not this year, it will. And when it does, we're talking an influx in regard to our revenue of maybe anywhere from 15 to 17 million a year. Now, I don't want to ring the boo bell or whatever it is, but if we don't do that analysis, then some of the ideas of increasing, rental support and stuff like that might not be possible, right? I mean, it's very likely that the assessments are going to level off. I mean, I'll have Commissioner Morgan weigh in on some of that, but I'm worried about those. I'm worried about the numbers. And we also know we have to provide it, and we want to make it as efficient and as effective as possible, as you do too. So when we come back around, are some of those strategic things maybe going to be implemented to say, yeah, if we prioritized and we were to do without something, this would be it. Maybe we're talking a $200,000 or $500,000, savings, if you will, even though we're cutting projects. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we're doing that, and that's what these proposals are, is we are looking at our clientele. We're looking at what other general assistance programs are doing, and that's why we're looking at primarily focusing is looking at we being the payer of last resort. So if a person is medically able to work, then we wouldn't be the payer of last resort. It's focusing on the folks that are medically unable to work, that cannot work, they have no other way to supplement their income, and being able to provide that rental assistance for them.
Oh, sorry. On average, do you think when you compare to Dodge, Lancaster, Polk, Potawatomi, Sarpy, and I haven't gone through the spreadsheet yet, are we providing more services than they are? I mean,
we blow the
not
nation
money
out of the
wise,
water.
not money wise, but client services. Sorry, I'm done.
Yes, nationwide, we are the most robust general assistance program, not looking at our budget, it's looking at the services we provide and to whom we provide those to. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I have two in the queue that are on deck for a third round, 2 minutes each. We'll start with Commissioner Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to build on what Commissioner Friend was saying because Melissa, this is not so much you, but I do want to paint this budget picture because I do think I'm having trouble reconciling that we're under lid. You're not one of the 5 exempt in the lid. So you've got this increasing, and when Commissioner said the state budget is at 471 million, my prediction it grows larger because of the Lexington closing and income tax being a part of the state's budget. That's going to grow. And my point is I'm having trouble recognizing how in statute we are the payer of last resort. And simply by writing in the guide, if you don't meet these requirements, you can't get service. So if somebody pushes that, I just feel like we're under budget. Now, I see how it's written that says if you don't do everything in the state requirements and things of that sort, but there's a part of me that feels like it's not about, I'm not talking about the person. I think there's gonna be persons in this loop that meet that requirement, and we're gonna go back to the old days where that person that wasn't covered in Medicaid comes down to the county. So that person walks in with a pay of last resort, and we point to some on a sheet, I'm wondering if that's going to cover us, because I'm thinking I'm thinking there's a bigger budget level than it is. And my question, I guess the question I'm putting out there is who covers that? Because I used to think before I got on the board that it was the federally qualified health centers, and that's not it, because the federally qualified health centers send them here. And so where is that medical gap if that gap that we used to feel there is no longer there? So that's the question I'm just putting out there, because I feel like we are under budget. And I see what your statement says, but there are going to be people through this that are not covered at all, and they're going to fall back to the old days.
And it also, like, it's in the state statute. So where our language comes from is in the state statute, 68-131. Any person who is or becomes ineligible for other general assistance programs due to his or her own actions or inaction shall also be ineligible for general assistance from the county. So that's in the state statute. And technically all of our clients are eligible for SNAP. They are eligible for Medicaid. If somebody, due to their criminal record, are not eligible, that again that falls back on that. Or if they don't comply with the job training or work readiness requirements, that would fall back onto that. And that is in state statute, and that's where that's why that's directly in there.
Thank you. Let me go to Commissioner Borgeson, third round, 2 minutes.
So we may have to go offline to talk about this, but so on page 5, we have 1,498 in fiscal year 2025 of clients. And then you turn to the page 8, and we're talking about the 961 clients, but that's the current fiscal year, but that's not the total number of clients?
So the 961, that is the clients that are in their current eligibility period. So that's not a fiscal year. That's just like a running calendar year. If I would apply today, my eligibility period would start December 1 and go through November 30th of 2026. So that is looking at each client's eligibility period. We have 961 clients currently within that. The numbers on page 5 are the client count for those fiscal years, and that is unique clients that have come through our department within that particular fiscal year.
And that's what I'm trying to then look at the 961, well, that other number, because we don't know what our fiscal year 25-26 number is yet, but then the 961 eligible, current eligibility period clients, and then of that 961, we're only providing, as of October, 451 with shelter assistance, which could be assisted living or rent, right?
Yes, that's any shelter expenses.
Any shelter.
And that number also can go up because we have clients that we're in December now, but we are looking back to October as our request date. And so if they're still in the pending process or we're still trying to get landlord paperwork, so those numbers, especially October, will increase the number of how much we have spent on October, and then the number of clients that have received assistance that will increase still.
Okay, we'll finish offline because I have more questions on that. But thank you.
Thank you. I'll take a very quick round just to chime in very briefly. In regards to our, I guess, mandated duties per statute to general assistance and kind of that discussion that's been going on, I do think it's been there's some gray area there in regards to how different counties have interpreted and the level they invest into their general assistance, as evidenced by the spreadsheet that Melissa gave us. But also, if you look at the example of Lancaster County, the second largest county in Nebraska, in recent years, I hear they're restructuring lately, but in very recent years, I talked to Sarah Hoyle, the director of their Human Services Department, and their investment into general assistance wasn't even in-house. They contracted it, and they invested $250,000 a year as basically a check to the People's City Mission as their general assistance kind of a contribution, and that was it. And so that's a big difference from our robust investment, and I think it's a good investment. Obviously, we're helping a lot of people. There's a lot of need in our very urban, populated county. And I do want to continue that robust investment, but at the same time being prudent about it. And I think Director Seawick has laid out some proposed guidelines that both continue that robustness while also adding some parameters that will keep us more aligned and within budget, and incremental growth, especially when you think about the lid that Commissioner Rogers is mentioning in regards to our cap and how much we can grow annually per the index that we have to abide by. I think these guidelines will get us in line with that's incremental growth and staying within budget while also maintaining a very robust program. So I appreciate your work in these guidelines. I know you and Commissioner Fahey spend a lot of time on these, and especially you, Director Seawick, on these. So thank you again, and I am supportive of what you're proposing here. But I know we'll have another chance to have a discussion when it comes back around on the agenda in 2 weeks. Commissioner Fahey?
For the shout out, but I do say all the credit goes to Melissa. I'm Johnny come lately, so I appreciate all of her great work on this and doing it. I do just want to briefly, since it did come up through the committee I chair, just stand on a soapbox for a very short moment here to say that, you know, I appreciate how seriously my colleagues take this. I take this very seriously. You know, I'm 40 years old, and one of the hallmarks of American politics during my lifetime has been the inexorable deconstruction of the social safety net. And despite many of what we were promised, it has not made this country more prosperous. It has certainly not balanced our government budgets. So we need to remember that on some level, every decision that this board makes is simply the apportionment of the burdens and suffering of civilized life. And whether that's in the tax burden somebody has to write a check at the end of the year, or whether somebody loses their home, we are ultimately apportioning that suffering and deciding who is going to bear more or less of it. And in my mind, the dollars we spend on general assistance, though small relative to our budget that they may be, provide some of the most direct lessening of physical human suffering, dollar for dollar, of anything we do. And so I just want to be clear for the public that what we're talking about now is hard decisions, but it's about making these guidelines, even though these may seem like small tweaks, they're not. They're very substantial tweaks, I would argue, and making sure that we're doing it in a way that preserves this program as best we can, given our, I would say, in some ways, undue budget constraints that are imposed from beyond our control. So thank you all very much for doing it. Thank you to Melissa for all of her work on it.
Thank you, Commissioner Fahey. Any other comments or questions during this public hearing, including from the public? If not, we will close the public hearing and plan to, oh, go ahead.
Hi, Mary Lee Moulton, 2035 South 181st Circle, and I'm with the League of Women Voters. I just wanted to, first of all, thank Director Seawick. She's obviously presented a really informative package of how all of this works, and I recognize the fiscal constraints that we're under. But like Commissioner Fahey said, you know, these are people who are less fortunate than us. They are people who are in dire circumstances. And after hearing the director from Threshold talk about what they're doing, I went to the committee meeting and heard about this right before Thanksgiving, and we're having a meeting 2 days after the holiday, and you're talking about having another meeting to make this decision in 2 weeks running up to the holiday. From a procedural standpoint, I think that perhaps we need to take a little more time, and, you know, obviously from the fact that there are not a lot of people here to speak on this issue, I'm not really sure that this has even been disseminated to the community that's going to be affected and those who, you know, who work with the housing issues. And I think that maybe we just need to slow down a little bit and also work together on what's going on with threshold and have some more coordination. You know, again, I recognize the fiscal constraints involved, but I would just urge you to perhaps take a step back and look at this from a more holistic viewpoint with what's going on with threshold and what they're trying to do, as opposed to possibly making this situation even worse while we're trying to struggle to make it a little better. But thanks very much.
Thank you. And Director Seawick, I have a quick question. Do we coordinate with Threshold and Jason in our work through general assistance?
Yes, we do. And I had probably about 2-hour conversation with Jane Gordon with Threshold, talking about what we were thinking as far as proposals go prior to this. And as Jason said, we do work with them. We work with the other shelters. And I agree with everything that's been said. I think our program is it for a lot of people. And like I said, I don't make these recommendations lightly, but we don't have it in our budget. And I've also said, I will take more money and we will keep them the same. So.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Director Seawick. And Commissioner Fahey.
Just a quick response regarding the timing. I did want to be clear. So the timing, as articulated in the comment, was that fault rests with me. I did actually. So I'm the chair of the committee. I did delay our committee meeting by 1 week so I could have some more time with the guidelines. We are statutorily obligated to. I believe we have to have these done by the end of the year per statute. So we're up against the clock. But if it's anyone's fault the deadline is so acute, it's mine alone. That's all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other comments or questions during this public hearing? If not, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and it will come back in 2 weeks for further discussion. Thank you, Director Seawick. Sure.
So we're closing the public hearing, but if there are potential changes, how are we going to handle those? It comes back. Are they going to be just amendments
I would
that
assume,
we
yeah.
present, or do we leave the public hearing open to talk about them and then potentially amend it, or close it, then amend it?
I'll defer to legal.
Huh?
I'll defer to legal, maybe some advice on that.
Teresa, York County Attorney's Office. I think this one you guys have done both ways. I think there have been times where you've discussed amendments and left it open to the subsequent like the 16th of December, and then set it that day for final discussion, close the public hearing, and action. So I think you have done it both ways. And there has been a lot of discussion today, so I think that is an option for you. If you want to leave it open and hear more discussion next time, and then I would suggest just setting it for also action on the 16th.
Okay. In that case, we'll leave it open.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
And I think the time, I mean, we only have that one meeting, but I think the point is we probably should think about reviewing these earlier in the year, like start in July or August versus, it's not just 1 week. I think it is way longer needed.
Mhm.
But then we would have our public hearings just as normal, but we would be reviewing the contents of it
Yeah.
more in depth. But we're going to leave this public hearing open, but we would be able to bring amendments if we wanted to.
Yep.
For the 16th.
Correct. Yep.
And I would just like to add to that. So our guidelines affect how we do our day-to-day operations. We have to change documents, forms, part of our case management system, screenings, all of that. And so I would just ask that if there are things that you all know that you want to propose ahead of time, if I can have those ready in our guidelines, so we also can hit the ground running as of January 1, because that's when these guidelines go into effect with our clients. And that's always a lot. But with these changes, it's going to be even more. And we want to make sure we can get all those done in time.
All right. We will leave the public hearing open and bring it back for further discussion on the 16th.
Thank you.
So, thank you, Director Seawick. We'll proceed here in our agenda. Under committees, section 8, we have finance. Under that, we have budget report as presented. From there, we have human resources. Item 1 was is the weekly personnel report from civil service, which is also as presented. And then items 2 and 3 relate to salaries. And so item 2 first is a resolution setting calendar year 2026 wage increases for various non-union county employees. Before we jump in, well, I guess I'll take a motion in a second and then jump into discussion. Motion by Rogers. I'll second that one. So this is for item 2, resolution setting calendar year 2026 wage increases for various non-union county employees. Is there any comment or question on the board or staff side to open up the item? Otherwise, we'll jump into discussion.
Committee chair, we did have a committee meeting where HR presented. We did have a committee.
Milford, can we get her mic on, please? Thank you.
Thank you. We did have a committee meeting, and HR presented what the proposal is that's before us. For the non-union employees, just remember that staff here in our office does reach out to electeds as far as their chief deputies and what their requests are. But again, a lot of the discussion was focused around compression issues in lots of the offices. But we pretty much stayed where we were in terms of the percentages as we have been in the past with union versus non-union.
Okay, thank you. And we'll jump into discussion here, starting with Commissioner Kavanaugh.
Yes, these next two items, 2 and 3, are both about wage increases. We're just talking about 2 here, right?
Yes, just 2.
Right. So just for the record, the wage increases here are for a group of management employees, basically, and a couple of office holders. The county attorney is here, and it looks like the public defender, sheriff's captains, district court bailiffs, district court and juvenile court, full and part-time non-union county employees, CMHC medical director, and psychiatrists, and physicians, and chief deputies. The increases here range, it appears, from about 3.6% increases in the county attorney and the county employees who are on the county's non-union step plan, and public defender. The sheriff's captains, it appears, get a 4% increase, as do district court bailiffs. District court and juvenile court full and part-time non-union county employees who are not on the county's non-union pay plan shall receive 4% increases. CMHC director, all psychiatrists and physicians get 3.6% increase. And the chief deputies appear to get 4% increases in the clerks, county attorney, treasurer, sheriffs, and clerk of the district court. The chief deputy in the assessors, the field chief deputy, gets 7% increase. I don't have a dollar amount on this, but I will on the following item. I don't know if anybody from our staff has a dollar amount on this category.
Yes, Diane Carlson, Deputy County Administrator. The cost on this resolution for a 3.6% increase across the board was calculated at $2,245,000. And that was presented at the HR committee. So that is the cost for this, for the 3.6% increase. Now on this resolution, there are some that are recommended at slightly higher at 4%. That was recommended by elected officials. And so I don't have the updated amount, but those are, it's a small number of employees compared to the larger group. So it would be slightly more than the $2,245,000.
So we're talking $2,245,601 in the increase?
Yes.
But it'll be slightly more than that.
It will be, yes.
Because some of these increases are above, the average seems to be around 3.5%, 3.6%.
The majority is 3.6%.
There are some 4% in there, so it would be 2.245 million plus for this category, and that will include number 3 on this as well, or is that separate?
That's separate.
Okay.
Yep.
So just for the record, these folks are not covered by union contracts. The only item I would point out is in the information that we received, and this is kind of comparing same to same, the comparables that are included in the information that we've received seem to be from the private sector and do range from 3.25 to 4%, but we don't have before us comparables from the public sector. And I know from dealing with other contracts, these would be consistent on the high side of what we have done in the collective bargaining stage. But they're not exactly comparable because there are steps on the collective bargaining stage that are not included on the non-union stage. So if you did the math, and I haven't, they might balance out fairly closely. And that's what I've been informed anyhow by HR. So that's just some background for the public.
Thank you. Other comments or questions on number 2? If not, there's a motion and a second on the table. We'll go ahead and vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
All right. Next, we have a resolution setting calendar year 2027, 2028 wage increases for the Douglas County Board of Commissioners. Is there a motion and a second for discussion? Motion by Rogers. Second by Friend. And we'll start with our discussion, starting with Commissioner Kavanaugh.
Thank you. This is for this board, and we're taken separate from the non-union employees because we're elected employees. And this is compared to the group that we just did, a little different category. I think we are dealing with like $65,180 on the next fiscal year. I think that's right. But these employees will be topped at that. That's the limit. The group that we just did, the average before the raise was just short of $100,000 per employee. And so with the raise, with the exception of the district court employees who are not going to be over $100,000, that entire group will go over $100,000 per. It looks like the bottom of that group is at 99,000, or the average of that group is at $99,327. But just to give you a comparison, this is the board. We act as kind of a board of directors of this municipal corporation called Douglas County. And so the board is compensated much less than the management employees that we've just passed on. and that's not unusual in private industry as well.
Thank you, Commissioner. And for further context, if I recall correctly, we did pass a resolution a couple years ago that kept the salaries of commissioners flat for 2 years. So there was a 0% increase for 2 years. So on top of that, and during that time, I believe there was a statute passed that now mandates a specific formula to the salary for commissioners. And I'll take some help from Patrick or others on this. But if I recall correctly, that new statute formula is basically CPI plus 1%, and with CPI typically around 3% or so in a normal year. But I'll take some clarification to make sure I'm accurate in that statement. But I know Patrick was working on this and others. So anybody can verify that, or Diane or anybody?
Yes, I think I can. Diane Carlson, Deputy County Administrator. The statute does have a cap on the amount of increase that can be given to county board members. This is a recent change in the statute. And there's two things. One, the amount that you increase by has to stay flat for 2 years. So what's before you today is an increase for 2027. And in 2028, there will be no increase because that's what the statute says. But the increase is capped, and the wording is that it's based on the unadjusted consumer price index for the period since the last salary increase, plus 1%. And so the amount before you, that formula was used to come up with. And so your current salary is going to be increased by approximately 6.3% based on that formula, but that will not go into effect until 2027, and it will be for a 2-year period. So it's more or less a 3% increase for those 2 years.
Got it. Okay. That's helpful. Thank you, Diane. Any other comments or questions on this item? Mr. Borgerson?
Well, I just want to point out that we are classified as part-time. And to me, this is even with, it's a may, not a shall, in setting our salary, if I read the statute right. So it doesn't mean that we have to do this. It just means that it gives us and provides us a way to calculate it versus how we've done it in the past.
Very good. Others on this item? Otherwise, we'll vote.
Motion passes. Commissioner Borgeson voting no, other commissioners voting yes.
Thank you. All right, that takes us to the end of our agenda. We do have a need for executive session today. I know legal advice and contract negotiations for sure. Was there anything else, Patrick or Marcos or Diane? Good? Okay. So I'll take a motion and a second for executive session. Second. Motion by Rogers, second by Morgan.
And legal advice too.
Yeah, that's already in there. Yep. Let's vote on that motion.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. The board will now go into executive session for the purpose of legal advice and contract negotiations.
Yes, Dan.
Yes. I will.
I'm watching you, you see. Checking it.
I mean, because varies. Interviews. Because what's going to happen? This is going to, I mean, this will come out on the state website in December. Assuming there's questions, because December 4th is the first of the day, so it'll come out, well, December will come out. Because right now, I think I looked back, and we're not October, right? Well, this one does this. There's the one. There's one more.
Motion to reconvene and adjourn by Commissioner Morgan, second by Commissioner Rogers. Motion passed 5-0. Commissioners Fahey and Kavanaugh are, no. Yes. All right. Motion passes 7-0. We're adjourned at 12:18 p.m.